Tonight's meeting is available to the public on Broomfield's YouTube channel. Commission members are attending this meeting remotely. Public participation is encouraged through the webinar or by calling 877-853-5247, webinar ID 922-3528-9756. Public comment will be taken on each agenda item following staff presentations. Callers can press *9 to raise their hand to indicate a desire to speak on an item, or webinar participants can use the raise hand function. All public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Pursuant to 2-70-30 Broomfield Municipal Code, no elected official or member of any city board, authority, or commission may appear before the Planning and Zoning Commission when it is conducting a quasi-jurisdictional proceeding. Now we're ready for the roll call. The Planning and Zoning Commission meeting is called to order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Franz,
Yes, here.
Lamont,
Here.
Carius,
Here.
Barkman,
Here.
Hastings,
Here.
Silvers,
Here.
Hart,
Here.
Nicholson,
Here.
A quorum is present. In an effort to keep order for tonight's meeting, we will call on each member of the commission for an opportunity to comment at the conclusion of staff presentations or updates. If making a motion or a second, we ask commissioners to use the raise hand function. Commissioners are asked to mute their microphone when not speaking. We'll now begin with commissioners' review and approval of this evening's agenda. Commissioners may revise the order of business for the meeting. Does any member of the commission have any comments or questions regarding this evening's agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to petitions and communications. Are there any petitions and communications, Ms. Burton-Zetti?
Chairman, I do not have anything for you this evening.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners' consideration of the minutes of the February 22nd, 2021 meeting is next. The commission has received copies of the minutes of the February 22nd, 2021 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting in their packets. Does any member of the Planning and Zoning Commission have any corrections or additions to these minutes? If so, please raise your hand. Again, I see none. So is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes of February 22nd, 2021? Commissioner Franz.
Move to approve the minutes from 2021 meeting as listed.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second? Commissioner Mickelson.
Yes, I'll second the motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, I have a motion and a proper second. Is there any discussion on the motion? If none, the secretary, please call the roll.
Nicholson,
Approved.
Hart,
Yes.
Lamont,
Yes.
Barkman,
Yes.
Franz,
Yes,
Hastings,
Yes.
Silvers,
Yes. And that's a 7-0 vote, so it's unanimously approved. Thank you. Now we're going on to the business items. The first item on the commission business is 5A, is resolution number PZ 2021-6 for Coleman's Lakeview Lot 1 through 5, Block 12, variance to reduce the side yard setback to allow for a new shed at 7290 West 119th Place. I will declare the public hearing open. Commission has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff, Ms. Tiff, planning technician, to summarize. And are you going to do that, Ms. Burton-Zetti?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Anna Burton-Zetti, Planning Director. I will present on behalf of Kayla Tift, our planning technician, who was unable to be here this evening. So if we could have the next slide, please. The applicant this evening is requesting approval of a variance at 7290 West 119th Place to permit the construction of a storage garage located approximately 5 feet from the western side of the property. Please enter the memorandum and supporting documents into the public record at this time. The property is a commercial business zoned Industrial 3, Jefferson County Legacy District, and it's located in the Coleman's Lakeview subdivision. The property is located to the south of 119th Place, and it is adjacent to an auto body shop to the east and a hardware shop across the street to the west. And across the street to the north is a gas station, and to the south is a machine workshop. Next slide, please. The approved Industrial 3 Jefferson County Legacy District has established a required side yard setback adjacent to a street of 30 feet. The applicant would like to request a variance to permit a storage garage located approximately 5 feet from the west property line. So that's an encroachment of 25 feet into the side yard setback. According to the letter of justification, due to the expansion and sensitive nature of the business, the applicant needs additional storage within close proximity to the primary building. The applicant also owns the property to the east at 7260 119th Place and leases the building to the auto body shop. The owners of the auto body shop utilize the rear of both properties, both parcels, and the applicant is unable, therefore, to place the storage garage on the rear of their property. Next slide, please. The proposed storage garage will be a Tough Shed brand, approximately 30 by 20 in size. The materials and colors are permitted according to the zoning. And this west side setback is approximately 9 feet from the principal building, leaving little room for expansion on the western side of the property. Next slide, please. The applicant has also mentioned that there is a shipping container on the rear end of the property that was present when the land was purchased in 2020. They have agreed to move the trailer approximately 15 feet to the east in order to meet the setbacks. There are no additional easements on the rear of the property or on the western sideline. Side setback. To date, staff has not received any additional communication regarding the proposed storage shed from area residents. And that concludes staff's presentation. The applicant is here this evening as well.
Thank you. The applicant's presentation is now in order. Will the applicant please identify yourself and tell us what you'd like to do? Is the applicant on mute?
Okay, should be good. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep, we can now.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Matthews, and I am one of the owners here at In Memoriam. My husband had set this all up and unfortunately had to do an impromptu trip to Mexico on Friday. So I'm kind of putting on a different hat here, but we are just looking to add a shed type unit. I know I heard the term garage, and yes, it does have a garage door, but it really is going to be more of a shed style addition if we are able to do it on the property. Again, 20 by 30 is the largest that it would be, and we just want to have something there kind of within our fence lines that would allow us to have additional storage on the property.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Well, you might get into, are you going to try to match the color of the building? Are you going to try to make it uniform? Are you going to do any landscaping around it? To give us kind of your thoughts when you put this building in.
This was an existing building, and if anything, I believe that we've contributed highly to the aesthetics of the building as well as the property around it. Yes, there's landscaping in order. However, none of that will affect or is relevant, in my opinion, to the addition of this shed. Again, everything that we have done has been an improvement to the area, and hopefully there will be more to come as our business continues to grow. Right now we have the facility painted gray and white, again, to try and catch that aesthetic appeal. Being on the corner, we're very lucky that we're visible, but it's also a tricky business. We're a funeral home, so I need to make sure that we do have, again, the aesthetic appeal to kind of keep up with everything and all of the new changes that are coming over here. So yes, absolutely. The shed, it was pink in the photo. It definitely would not be pink. It would be gray and white. And yes, would be an aesthetic addition to the property.
Okay, well, that's what we wanted to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
No, and
You
if
would
there's
like to-
something in specific I should be answering or knowing to ask, please guide me.
Yeah, we'll get to the commissioner's comments, and I'm sure we'll have questions for you. So we go to public comments now. Does any member of the public have comments on this item? If there is anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this item, please raise your hand or use the phone number to call in your comments. Please keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes. Do we have anybody in the queue, Ms. Bertonzetti?
Thank you, Chairman. I do not see anyone.
Okay, so we will now proceed to the commissioners. Will the secretary please call the roll for the commissioner's comments?
Lamont,
Thank you. No questions or comments.
Hastings,
Yes, how tall is this building going to be?
I don't know. I truly don't know. It was a prefabricated, I guess just, what do you even call it? Sorry, Anna, maybe you'll know better. Like a kind of a build your own on a website that would not exceed any taller than the building itself. If anything, it would be much shorter than the existing building. So I unfortunately do not have an answer for that about the height of the proposed shed.
You talk about this being possibly be a tough shed or some built on a website, and they would come and it would be configured on site. Is that correct?
I would imagine so. Yes, there's no way that it could be pre-assembled. So yes, it would be something that would need to be built on site.
There is just it's modular. It's not going to be a stick built.
Right.
What about what are you going to do about the trees along on the west side there? How many trees are going to be remaining there?
All of the trees have since been removed. There's 2 trees existing on the west side of the building that have been absolute. I mean, we've taken literally everything out of the front of the property. The 2 trees that are remaining are healthy trees still, and they are, I mean, it's very difficult visually to see, but they're closer to the south side of the property than they are really anywhere else. So a lot of those trees have been removed because they were all dead.
Okay. On the shipping container, which is on the south of the property, it was there when you purchased the property. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And are using it for storage now?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe for staff, is this a permit required for this, or do we have to meet the setbacks? Correct.
Thank you, Commissioner Hastings. We have had prior conversations with the applicant, and they've agreed to relocate that shed so that it does meet setbacks. And when they do so, it will have a permit. So they have agreed to come into compliance with that shed. So a variance is not requested for that this evening. It is not necessary. They're going through the proper steps to have that comply.
And in fairness, we're really happy that we have to move it because it's ugly.
Well, if it's ugly, you're still going to keep it. You're just moving it.
We're moving it, but we're moving it to the automotive side. We're okay.
Oh, okay. So it's going off your side of the property.
Yes.
All right. So the other question we had is the talk about this being a temporary structure. Is it possibly for 3 years? What's the long range plan here? Is this going to be permanent or?
So we don't really have any plans for it to be permanent. We hope that we are able to utilize, I mean, just depending on how the business grows, there's no definitive plans for it to be a permanent structure, so to speak, but it would definitely be longer than, for example, a year with everything happening. So right now we're kind of in this indefinite proposal, so to speak, and it wouldn't be a forever thing, depending on how, again, our business grows and what we need to change in order to make that work.
Yeah, I would buy that property there. You have a screen, you have a fence up, and you have kind of the screening in those the like hurricane chain fence, correct?
Yeah,
So you
it's,
are somewhat screening from the property from off of Upham, right?
correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And also, Kelsey, it's not a negative if it's a permanent structure. It's can be temporary or permanent or whatever you want. You just have to tell us.
And the truth of the matter is we have absolutely no idea. We have no idea what that looks like. So again, I don't care really with the plans, but for right now it would be, I mean, it's a large enough structure that I don't anticipate taking it down in a year. So I don't know.
Okay.
You finished, Commissioner Hastings?
Yes,
Hart? You're on mute.
I would like to follow up on the structure. Am I operating now? Because it looks like the screen is frozen.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Would you be moving that structure, or will it stay in its current location depending upon what happens in the future? Do you know?
Right now, I don't see any other place to put it. So I think it would remain where it would be if that was the case.
So it will probably become a permanent structure is probably the answer. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Barkman?
I don't have any questions or comments.
Carius?
Yeah, I think my only concerns are that the location of the new garage shed does make it appear more of a permanent structure when, if you're moving the shipping container like storage unit to the other part of the property, that opens up a back corner of the lot, which to me makes more sense for where the structure location could be, given that it's a large garage door access item. And it would just be, you have the parking lot spaces being kind of flipped in their location possibly, or in just adjusting that driveway space. I guess to me, the problem is the current plan just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I guess I'm just kind of confused by the plan and like placing the shed off to this right section with a garage door that I'm assuming is going to face south.
Yes.
And that will be at this entrance from the roadway, correct?
Right. Our private entrance, that is not an open to the public. And because of the sensitivity of the nature of the items that we need to keep in this shed, we'd like to have it close to the facility.
Okay.
We're open to suggestions, absolutely. And we definitely want to play by the rules. So we're open to it, but I'd really like to keep something close to the building if possible.
Okay, I don't have any other questions. I yield.
Franz?
No comment.
Silvers?
Kelsey, I like the way that you're going to make the aesthetics similar to the existing structures. And I also like the way you guys have improved the area. So if you keep this in the same kind of context, that would be great. But, good job.
Thank you.
And that's all I've got.
Thank you.
Mickelson?
Yes, the question I have is there any possibility to move that shed garage closer to the house slash office building?
Which direction?
I mean, east towards the office building, like to, I guess, I was thinking about that question earlier and not realizing that most of those trees have been removed. Trying to figure out, it's kind of centered on that side between the edge of the building and the property line. And I didn't know whether moving it closer to the building, the existing building, provided any,
Oh, I see what you
reason to
mean.
keep the landscape, but apparently the landscape's not there.
And in fairness, there's an air conditioning unit that sits between where that would be, because trust me, I would love to have it up against the house. But I don't see that as a possibility, because that's where those lines, and I know, again, speaking with Anna in previous conversations that were not even related to this, the city is working on having the sidewalk built there on Upham, as well as all of those lines being buried eventually. And I don't know how that would interfere if we were to move it any closer to the house, because a lot of those lines run right there. And it's like we kind of get some momentum with a lot of that changing on Upham, and then all of a sudden all of that work stops too. So we're just getting anxious to see a lot of these developments take place. And I don't really know what comes first, the chicken or the egg, but we'd like to get that kind of situated so that it does have that aesthetic appeal. Because right now our corner, which I won't even get into, I'd keep you guys here all night, but we have a lot of work to do on that specific corner there, that I think is actually with the city of Broomfield and not with In Memoriam. So as much as I would absolutely love the shed up against the house, Jennifer, I just don't know if that would be feasible.
That was the only question I had, really. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else that has any additional questions or requires any additional information before I close the public hearing? Is there any unresolved issues? If not, I will declare the public hearing officially closed.
Chairman, there's a hand raised.
I'm sorry, Chuck, I didn't see you.
Okay, well, I'm sorry.
I did.
No, I just want to get clarification. I think we should hear from it, is where not there are utilities in close next to the house or anything like that, where the utilities might be, would have to interfere with where she might be located. So she may this may be the only place we can put the building. Do you have any idea where the utilities are that access the building, your existing building?
Kelsey, that's a question for you.
Sure. What, and I'm sorry, you'll have to tell me what you mean by utilities.
Any underground utilities or overhead utilities, or any utilities running through the area where you're going to set the building?
There is, and I don't believe it would interfere, because where the proposed shed is behind a fence, and the utility line that I'm talking about actually goes to the north of that fence, or right in front of it. Our gas lines, nothing else is in that area except for the air conditioning unit in between the proposed shed and the house.
Okay, it helps clarify it. Thank you.
Okay, is that all? Any other questions? Okay, now I will proceed to close the public hearing. Any additional comments from staff?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, being none, we'll now proceed to the resolution. Resolution PZ 2021-6, a resolution approving with or without conditions, or a resolution denying Woman's Lake Lot 1 through 5, Block 12, variance to reduce the side yard setback to allow for a new shed at 7290 West 119th Place. What is the pleasure of the commission? Commissioner Franz?
I move to approve PC resolution number 2021-6 to request a reduced side yard setback from 30 feet to 5 feet, to allow for a 20 by 30 foot garage 5 feet from the property line at 7290 West 119th Place, Lakeview Lot 1 to 5, Block 12, with no conditions and the following findings. There's been no public objection to the resolution. Number 2, following the 30-foot setback would result in difficulties for the owner and also some undue hardship. Number 3, relief granted would not be detrimental to the neighborhood at all. And number 4, no variance shall authorize only use other than the use permitted in the zoning district.
Okay, I have a proper motion. Is there a second? Commissioner Mickelson?
I second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a proper second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Being none, the secretary will please call the roll.
Amon,
Yes.
Mickelson,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Franz,
Yes.
Hastings,
Yes.
Silvers,
Yes.
Barkman,
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0. Good job with your presentation and good luck with your project.
Thank you all so much.
And thank you for staying in Broomfield.
Yes, of course. Thanks for having us.
So next on the agenda is on Commissioner's business is 5B, resolution number PZ 20-21-9 for Red Leaf filing number 1, lot 27, variance to reduce the rear yard setback to allow for a covered deck at 13281 Wild Basin Way. I will declare the public hearing open. Commissioners has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask Anna to Ms. Bertanzetti to summarize.
Thank you. Good evening again. Chairman, members of the commission, Anna Bertanzetti, Planning Director on behalf of Kayla Tift, Planning Technician. If we could have the next slide, please. The applicant has requested approval of a variance at 13281 Wild Basin Way to permit the construction of a covered patio. It's located approximately 10 feet from the rear property line. At this time, I'd like to ask that the memorandum and supporting documents be entered into the public record. The property is an interior residential lot zoned PUD, planned unit development, and located in the Red Leaf filing number 1 subdivision. It's southwest of Wild Basin Way and is adjacent to similar single-family homes to the east and west. Next slide, please. The approved Red Leaf filing number 1 PUD plan has established a required rear yard setback of 20 feet. Decks under 30 inches in height are allowed to encroach by 10 feet. However, the rear setback does not allow for proposed patio cover encroachments. The applicant would like to request a variance to permit a patio cover approximately 10 feet from the rear property line. So as it's an encroachment of 10 feet. According to the letter of justification, the applicant would like the addition of the patio cover to be able to use the outdoor space during the summers. The rear of the home is built approximately six feet from the rear yard setback, leaving little room for additions. The applicant has also mentioned that both adjacent neighbors have patio covers, one of which received an approved variance for a similar use. Next slide, please. The proposed patio cover will cover the existing low deck, and the materials, form, and color will match the principal residence. Next slide, please. The applicant has received letters of support from adjacent homeowners, and the applicant has also received homeowner association approval. The rear of the property is adjacent to open tracks and soccer fields in the county commons. To date, staff has not received any additional communications regarding the proposed patio cover, and that concludes staff's presentation, and the applicant is here this evening as well.
Okay, thank you. The applicant's presentation is now in order. Would the applicant please identify yourself for the record and tell us what you'd like to do?
Yeah,
You can't say you have to put on the cover to keep airplane parts from hitting your house.
Seems legit all of a sudden.
it wasn't the original plan, but we might have to strengthen it. I'm Bob Gebhardt, and this is my wife Jocelyn next to me. We're wanting to put a permanent roof over the patio that we have on the west side of the house to give us a little bit more shade in the summertime so that we can sit out there and watch all the people running back and forth in the Commons Park. I don't know too much else to say.
It is true that the houses on each side of us came to this realization years ago and have permanent roofs over their patios.
Right.
Okay, do you have anything about describing the color? Is it going to match the house? You going to wrap anything in stone? Or, I mean, you've got
It's-
some descriptions or details?
Sure. So we want it to look like the house. So it's gonna have the same paint scheme and roof material that the house has. We'd really like it to look like it was built as part of the house altogether. There's a possibility that we could have some stone at the supports on the western edge, but we haven't talked to the construction guy about that. So it's not clear whether it'll be that or maybe it'll just be, a shaped wooden kind of pillar look that you see on some of the houses around here.
Sure. Okay, does that conclude your presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We will go to public comments. Does any member of the public have any comments on this item? If there is anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this item, please raise your hand. Use the phone number to call in your comments. Please keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes. So is there anyone in queue that wants to talk on this topic? I don't see anything going on.
I don't
So
see
we-
anyone either, Chairman.
Okay, so we'll move to the commissioners' comments. We'll now call on each commissioner for comment. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Silvers,
No comments.
Hastings,
Yes. Well, let the applicant know that I am a resident of Red Leaf, and I'm wondering why he took so long to put this application
Yeah.
in.
That's just what our neighbors said when we asked for their signatures.
I face south, and I have a louvered roof that covers up my south, not a permanent one, but good luck with that.
Thank you.
Lamont,
No comment, thank you.
Curious,
No comments.
Hart,
No comment.
Barkman,
None.
Franz,
Looks like a good plan. No comment.
Mickelson,
No comment.
Well, that concludes the comments of the commissioners. Is there anyone else that has any additional questions or requires any additional information before I close the public hearing? I'm looking for any hands raised and I don't see any. So if not, I will declare the public hearing officially closed. Are there any additional comments from staff?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, we'll now proceed to the resolution. Resolution PZ 2021-9, a resolution approving with or without conditions, or a resolution denying readily filing number 1, lot 27, variance to reduce the rear yard setback to allow for a covered deck at 13281 Wild Basin Way. What is the pleasure of the commission? Commissioner Mickelson.
I recommend approval of resolution for Red Leaf filing number 1, lot 27, 1328-1 Wild Basin Way, variance application to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 10 feet, allowing for a covered deck. The application for Red Leaf filing 1, lot 27, 13281 Wild Basin Way, a variance to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 10 feet to allow for the covered deck has been submitted. Oh, I didn't need to read that.
You might throw in some
Okay.
findings.
There has been no disagreement with the neighbors. The backyard faces an open space and there are no safety areas. They're using similar materials to the house as justification for the approval.
Okay, so I have a motion and I need a second. Commissioner Hart?
I second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a proper second by Commissioner Hart. Any discussion on the motion?
I do.
Commissioner Hastings?
Yes, I'd like to add a condition that there be no permanent vertical screening to be installed.
You're just saying you don't want the porch enclosed.
No, yeah, that's right. No permanent vertical screening, correct.
Okay, so is the first okay with that, Commissioner Mickelson?
Yes, I'm okay with that. No enclosure.
And Commissioner Hart, are you okay with that?
Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So that motion has been amended to add no permanent enclosure to the roof. Okay, will the secretary please call the roll?
Franz,
Yes.
Lamont,
Yes.
Silvers,
Yes.
Mickelson,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Hastings,
Yes.
Barkman.
Yes.
And that passes 7-0. So congratulations and good luck with your patio cover.
Yay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now you can go out and spend about $20,000 or $30,000 and have that built.
Thanks for the privilege. Yes.
All right, thanks. Okay, last on the agenda item is 5C, which is the resolution number PZ 2021-7 for unplatted 7905 West 120th Avenue urban renewal site plan and use by special review amendment number 1. I will declare the public hearing open. Commissioners have received a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask Ms. Burton-Zetti to summarize.
Thank you, Chairman.
sorry,
The
this-
summary will actually be by
That's-
Shelby
that's-
Jablonski.
Let me ask Ms. Jablin to summarize.
Thank you. Can we go to the next page, please? All right. Good evening, Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. The application is for consideration of an amendment to a previously approved use by special review and urban renewal site plan at 7905 West 120th Avenue. The application is complete, and to the best of staff's knowledge, notification requirements have been met for this hearing. Please enter the memorandum and supporting documents into the public record. The property is located in the original Broomfield neighborhood, located at the northeast corner of West 120th Ave and Emerald Lane. The parcel is located adjacent to commercial parcels to the north and east and residential parcels to the south and west. Property is zoned B2 and is currently used as a landscaping supply business, a use which was approved through an existing use by special review and urban renewal site plan. Please. The original use by special review and urban renewal site plan for the site, which was approved in June 2013, included the approval of an office building, a flex space, and a pole barn and garage. The original plans additionally outlined areas on the site which are permitted for use for storage of vehicles for the associated business and established landscape setbacks and clear zones along the northwest property lines. Next page, please. The current proposal is for an amendment to the approved use by special review urban renewal site plan. This amendment will allow for the storage of materials, equipment, or vehicles within the setback areas or clear zones along these northwest property lines. The applicant is interested in leasing the property to an additional tenant and has found that the current clear zone and setbacks have reduced the usable lot area by a total of approximately 19,980 square feet. The applicant has verified that any additional tenant at the parcel will be consistent with the approved landscaping use or will be a permitted use by right within the B2 zone district. The proposed amendment includes a variance from the B2 requirements established within the municipal code. The code specifies that B2 zone parcels located across the street from a residential district shall provide a landscape buffer not less than 25 feet in width adjacent to the right-of-way. The applicant would like to request a variance from this requirement to allow for the reduction of this landscape buffer to 0 feet to allow for the storage of equipment, materials, or vehicles along the property line. Next page, please. The neighborhood meeting for the project was held on January 29th, 2021. A total of 12 residents were present at the neighborhood meeting. A summary of the provided comments at the meeting are included as follows. A number of residents were curious about the proposed uses within the setback areas. The applicant provided information on the proposed storage of vehicles and equipment. One resident stated that they do not have concerns with the storage use, however, would not be supportive of large semi-trucks in the location. And one resident specified that they would be approving of the storage use within the subject area, however, would not support new buildings, which is not part of this proposal. And a number of residents expressed support for the request and referenced the improvements that the property owners have made to the parcel since owning it. 2 residents have since provided a written comment, which have been included as an attachment to the memorandum. One neighboring property owner has requested that the applicant replace the existing 8-foot-high wooden fence along Emerald Street prior to utilizing the setback area for storage. The applicant is currently considering the request, however, has stated that the fence has been well maintained and has provided images of the area in question. The requested variance from the established side yard buffer requirements has been identified as a key issue. Thank you. That concludes the staff report.
Thank you. Commissioner Hart, you have your hand raised. Did you have a question
No.
about?
I did not lower it. I apologize.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, the applicant's presentation is now in order. Is the applicant or applicant's representative present? And if you wish to be heard, please identify yourself and tell us a little bit about why you want to do this.
Okay, thank you for letting us be heard. My husband is here as well. His name is Scott Riddell. And we purchased this in August of 2018. We needed to relocate his landscape construction company from unincorporated Adams County, where eminent domain had taken the parking lot and a good portion of our land. So when we moved to the old Broomfield Lumberyard, at the time when we moved in here, it was in disarray. The person that we had purchased it from had decided to lease back to us, and they were here until December of 2019. So you had two companies that were occupying the area that we have here now. They left, and we decided to move into the old Broomfield Bank. And so leasing out the larger warehouse portion, and in doing so, we have found that people were interested in leasing the property that we have noted in the green section that has been noted in the USR as not being able to be used because of the situations that had existed prior to us purchasing it. There was an issue with the prior owner and the prior tenant that we weren't aware of until we got served after we purchased this, that there was a problem with storage of material and some other code violations that we weren't sure of. So they have moved out. We have, during COVID, gone through, cleaned out the yard, and we have constantly maintained, and we have done a lot of updates to the parking lot, the buildings, the yard. We love this area, and we have neighbors that we need to be mindful of. We have several candidates for that want to lease this, and my realtor is Connor Donahue is here to tell you the people that are interested in leasing not only the building but the yard, and they need to comply with the B2 zoning. And we want to make sure that we have good neighbors that are coming in, not just as tenants, but good neighbors, because this is in a neighborhood. And you know, the area where you have the semis coming through there, the problem that we have is if they come in the main way, for them to turn around, it's a very awkward place when you have, you know, I don't know if you can see where we're at. We've cleaned it out, but where some of the older buildings are coming through with the semi, it's a sharp turn. So we need that additional area that we've cleaned up. We just want to use our land for whichever tenant comes in there. So it may not be the landscape supplier of material that would be the tenant. We have different options. So that's where we stand right now. But Connor Donahue, who's on the call, can address any questions you have about potential tenants coming in.
Okay, does he want to do a brief presentation, or should we go on to the public comments? Ms. Riddle?
Yes, I think he would like to speak.
Okay.
Hi guys, this is Connor Donahue. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any materials to present here, but I'm happy to kind of give a quick summary of the prospective tenants that we've had visit the subject site, if that's helpful.
Sure. Connor, can you give me your address and the company you work for?
Yes. So my full name is Connor Donahue, C-O-N-N-O-R, Donahue, D-O-N-A-H-U-E. I work for NAI, Shames McCuskey. Shames McCuskey is spelled S-H-A-M-E-S. McCuskey, M-A-K-O-V-S-K-Y. We are located in Denver at 1400 Glenarm Place, Suite 100. And our zip code is 80202.
Okay, thank you for doing that.
No problem. So I'm happy to dive in here real quick. I met Scott and Teresa probably just over 6 months ago. Since then, we've had a handful of active prospects come to the site with the interest in leasing, and the setback that has been put in place has been somewhat of a hindrance to us. We've had supply yards, construction equipment rental companies, agricultural groups, both national and local tenants inquire. And Scott and Teresa, from my experience with them, they've been great property owners, great business owners, great neighbors, and honestly stand-up members of the Broomfield community. So as Teresa was saying, we're solely looking for the right to utilize the full subject property at 7905 West 120th in a way that doesn't affect the neighbor's quiet right to enjoyment, and it also doesn't affect Scott and Teresa as landlords in the community.
Okay, thank you. Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, I'm happy to answer any additional questions that come up, so feel free to ask away.
Okay, I'm sure we will. The commissioners will have. Right now, we have public comments. Does any member of public have any comments on this item? And if there's anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this, please raise your hand or use the phone number to call in your comments. If you have them, please keep them to 3 minutes or less. So I do not see anybody in the queue. Do you see anybody in the queue, Ms. Burton-Zetti?
Thank you, Chairman. We do have one hand that was raised.
Okay, I see that now. Whoever has their hand raised, would you like to speak, please?
There, I've unmuted. I'm Beverly Newman. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Beverly Newman. My address is 7997 Emerald Lane in Broomfield.
Okay.
And the subject lot that we're referring to, they abut our property on the north side as well as I don't know if you have a map there. I'm sorry, the east side. I don't know if you have a map there. You can see where our home is, and that the subject lot does abut it on a couple of different sides there.
Right. We do have an aerial, but I don't know which home is yours.
It's I'm looking at a small map here. It's the 7997 home.
Okay.
There. So there'd be a fence along the north side there in between us and the subject lot.
All right. So go ahead and tell us what you'd like.
My comment tonight would be is that the most important issue for us, and we've owned this home for 30 years, the buffers in the current USR, we feel should not be removed. And basically it's because for the last 8 years, they've helped mitigate the effects of noise and odors and exhaust, debris from the piles when there were landscape companies back there and miscellaneous storage. It also helps with the accumulated, it helps not have accumulated junk along the fence and the property lines, along the residential lots that are on all sides of the subject lot. And for the last 8 years, those buffers, the parking and the landscaping buffers, have worked. And back in 2013, when the county approved those buffers, they were necessary back then. And because this is a highly residential or a highly mixed use area in this southwest corner of Broomfield, we just feel that these buffers and restrictions help to maintain the integrity of original Broomfield and one of Broomfield's oldest neighborhoods. And again, the buffers have worked. It does help keep whatever goes on this subject lot, no matter who owns it, from basically accumulating any negative stuff up against the fence lines, really. And not only our lot, but the residences across at the Emerald Hill Habitat neighborhood. And that's all I have to say. We're just concerned about the buffers.
Okay, well, thank you. And thank you for being on the call.
Thank you.
We'll go back to the applicant. Would you like to answer any of those questions before we move on to the commissioners? You or Connor?
Yes, I would. We have owned the property for the last 2 years, and I'm sorry, I don't know. Are you the owner or the tenant that lives there?
She might have dropped. She said she owned the property for 30 years.
Okay, well,
I'm sorry, I'm the owner of the property.
okay, so the tenants that are there, you know, I haven't met them. The only people that I have met are the McDonald's that live directly next to us. We put in a new fence, we've done everything that we can to improve the area that we're in. The area, if you look behind the fence that runs along Emerald, we have spent the last 2 years cleaning up, taking a lot of things out of there. There was a huge building that we took down because it was unsafe. And, you know, when we realized when we purchased this, that there was a time setback, a time restraint, and that was from 7 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock at night, because the prior owner and tenants really were providing a nuisance to the people that ran along Emerald. And we have been very mindful of the people that live there for the time and for the noise and for the dust and for any debris that may have accumulated. I mean, if you look over the fence, or if your tenants have looked over the fence, you will see an entirely different situation than when you had 8 years ago. I don't know what it was like 8 years ago, but we want to be good neighbors, and I believe that we have been. So
Okay.
I hope that addresses your concern.
Yeah, Bev, I have a question for you. Do you live in the residence at 7997?
Yes, I'm here now.
You live there permanently?
We live here permanently, yes.
Okay. Because she mentioned tenants, and I didn't know if you had tenants in the property.
I did have tenants. Oh, we did have tenants at one time on the property, but we, as of last fall, we've moved back into the property, so we're here.
That's good clarification. Thank you.
Right.
Do you have anything else to say before we move on to the commissioners? Anyone? Okay, we will, is there anybody else in the queue, Anna, to speak on behalf of this application from the public?
I do have one more thing that I would like to add. The area that abuts their property, if, I don't know which slide, Shelby, can you go back to the one that shows the two greens?
Hey, Jake, can we pull the presentation back up? Thank you.
Okay, the one with the aerial view. No. It shows, let's see where it is. Okay.
Was this an image from that was shown in my presentation, Teresa?
I'm not sure. There's one that we had that's this one here. Okay. So if you look at the property itself, it looks like a lopsided Christmas tree. The area that abuts the railroad track, that land there slopes off. The area where you have the lime green area and the area that is the darker green that is next to 7997 Emerald, that is a loss of almost half of an acre of the property that we own, that we cannot use. I can understand her concern living there, living next to a property where you have a business. We have, we have 2 setbacks, and we lose almost 20,000 square foot of our own property that we cannot formally use. In the area that's next to the Grange Hall, that triangle down there is where we're at right now. You cannot turn a semi around in there. So we're trying to make this work not only for ourselves, but any potential tenants, and that they would be B2. We ask that they would be mindful of the neighborhood itself. Instead of having the entire area as it is with the setback, next to 7997, we would request a 10-foot setback, that green area, instead of the 25-foot for our business, so that we can utilize the land that we own in a good manner that allows us to be good neighbors as well, but allows us to use our property. And that's all I have.
This is a good illustration. I'm trying to see where 7997 is at in
Next
relation
to that darker green.
There's nothing there, but looks like cars parked along the road?
Dark green.
It's next to the darker green.
Okay.
So I think in the packet, it's on page 2. I find that to be a better one. And I think that maybe is the one that Jake had brought up originally. That it kind of matches it, but she's directly south to that darker green.
Oh, okay, I see it. So it's kind of the south end of the property.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I got it. Thank you for the clarification. I couldn't see it on this illustration you have shown right there because the one you have up on the screen, I was just looking to see where was it. But I do see it's next to the darker green.
It has some very odd boundaries, and those boundaries go back to the old lumber company. So that's why that property has such an odd shape. And that property, that lime green, at one point opened up into the land that is now the housing community. So it was all one parcel at one time.
Sure.
So,
Okay. Now I see the dark green on the other map you have up as well. Okay, cool. Okay, any other thing from the applicant before we move on to the commissioners? Okay, being none, we will move to the commissioners. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Arias,
First this time. Just looking through the different review, I think like the applicant stated, having a smaller setback located on the west side of the property might be an accommodation that can be made by the board. Right now, the setback is 25 feet, and the distance to the setback does extend into the public use property that's been fenced off by the revocable permit. And so what could be done is to set the west kind of buffer at a more, acceptable or kind of beneficial range of maybe 10 feet, or I think 10 feet probably be fine. Something that you could definitely work with. And I'm just thinking about the variety of different things that could go in there. So I think that's really feasible. I think also noting that looks like the original drawings located from page 7 of the packet, that west side buffer extends all the way up to the original jurisdiction of the lot. And so that's the one that's not the furthest to the west, but in between the dark green and the part. If we could reduce that buffer space to only apply to the corner of the lot up to the revocable fencing permit, I think that would be applicable. And then to have that considered as kind of the public space as well across that space. So just making these lines a little crisper on the west side would make it just definitely more applicable to the usage of the lot. That's kind of my first thing. The second part is regarding the actual buffer space. How do you plan to use that buffer space to actually kind of create that difference between your lot and the residential lots to the west?
the residential lots to the west, there's on the other side of that fence, it's just parking. There's nothing there. That land, that triangle, that skinny little triangle, it's at a slope. So basically, if you look, I don't know if you have the zoning map there, but if you look across the street from us, there is a company that does landscape maintenance, and they're right up next to the fence. The reason that we're asking for that, because the land is so uniquely shaped and the slope of it, not all of that land is as usable as we would like to have it be. So Scott Riddell is on here. My husband is on here, and I will let him speak to your question.
One quick thing, if you notice on that drawing, the one that has the blue and the green, the plan view, but the way that was drawn, we're actually giving up 100 feet from the fence because they went 25 and 25, and then there's another 50. So we're giving up a lot of land that we don't feel is adequate. In addition, that site slopes from west to east at about a 5%. And then along that fence, there's some sections that are 3-to-1 sloping down. So there's a significant drop in grade. And like Teresa mentioned, on the other side of the fence, it's our belief that that's the city of Broomfield's property. And basically people are just parking cars there all the time. As for the buffer down by the house, you know, I think that's fine. We don't have an issue with having a buffer over there to be a good neighbor, but we're really concerned about that big section up above, as wide as that was drawn out back in 2013.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely agreeing with you. You know, reducing the size of that buffer makes sense for that western edge, but I still think that there is kind of, you know, there is a justification for it. It's written within the code that there is supposed to be a buffer of some sort between the residential lots and whatnot. And it specifically calls out in the code differences between commercial lots, residential lots, you know, and what is kind of adjacent defines the need for what that space is. And so I see kind of the need for reducing that buffer space. But I think reducing the buffer space to 0 would essentially be us reversing the code, you know, set up by city council, which I don't feel, you know, that this board is authorized to do. But that's why I was kind of asking if there was a 10-foot buffer located along the western fence, you know, kind of zigzagging up that section, which does have that awkward grade to it in certain sections. Could you and would you be willing to prepare some sort of kind of buffering system to kind of separate those land uses, you know, by the street? Not talking about the section outside of your fence space, but according to the regulations, it is within your fence space that the buffer should exist and be, you know, exist in some form. That's what it says.
Yeah, we would have no problem with a 10-foot buffer, and we could rock that to make it a permanent fixture.
Any chance for trees?
Well, there are some trees there now. If you look at that aerial, there's actually a couple power poles that are about 8 foot away from the fence. There's 3 pine trees that are still there. And up at the north end, I think there's 4 deciduous trees that are still there that we've left.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, was just in, you know, adding some trees in that buffer that would absorb the sound, that would absorb some of the difference between the properties. And, you know, they could just be like, I'm thinking about the quick, easy trees my dad propped up that grew nice and tall and blocked the view, and that's all you need, you know, to create that difference.
Like I said, the sound and visible isn't that big of an issue because of the way the grade slopes to the east.
Yeah.
You really can't see from over there. Anybody that's driven that corner, it drops off pretty significantly. But yeah, putting a couple trees in there and a 10-foot rock buffer wouldn't be an issue.
Okay. Sounds good. I think that's all the questions I have for now.
Franz?
I just wanted to follow up what Mr. Karaya said in terms of, could you delineate again what you would do for the buffer between your property and the homeowner who spoke earlier in terms of, you know, again, noise and pollution mitigation?
Right now, it calls out for the 20-foot clear zone. I guess Teresa was requesting to modify that to 10 foot, and then we could do 10 foot and plant some trees in there too, if that would be acceptable.
Yeah, and that's why I was just asking if what you'd commit to doing, would you commit to doing the trees and so forth? Would that be a commitment you'd be willing to have as a condition?
Yeah, we could do that.
Thank you.
Nicholson?
The questions I had have already been addressed, so no comment.
Hastings?
Yes, thank you. I'm not certain if we're going to have them put trees inside the fence, it serves any actual function from the standpoint that it's an 8-foot fence. And so, you know, having trees in the inside, you're going to have to take a long time for them to have do anything there, and I don't think that's really not achieving anything. But I like to look at the thing from a standpoint that the green is an axe. You got an axe blade, and you got the handle. Okay, that's what I like to think about. On the axe blade, there are shrubs on the outside of that property. Along the handle, there is no vegetation at all. But that's not even your property, is that correct? The fence is on your property line, is that correct?
That's correct. There's trees on the inside of the fence, but on the outside of the axe handle, it's all just public parking.
Yeah, well, it's not the most attractive. Yeah, that's just right. So I don't know, but what the benefit for having trees on the inside of the fence is really going to be. So you're willing to have a 10-foot setback. Now, if you had landscaping material and everything along the fence, even if you could be inside a 10-foot, I think the major concern would be if along that the homeowner's property there, in that dark green area, is where you would not have vehicles to be backed up to that fence, and then they would be fired up and then putting pollution into that property. That's I think is a major concern. So if you used it for landscaping materials for transfer and all that would be satisfactory. But if you're going to have vehicles near there, that 10-foot setback is definitely, I would feel, be a must. Yeah. Now, on the north portion of the property, are you going to change that 30-foot transfer area? Is that going to stay that?
We don't do that type of work. The previous tenant did a lot of maintenance. We don't do maintenance. So we don't, if you look at that aerial, we just use it to park equipment right now. I think that's that one drawing with the axe handle and the.
No, I'm talking about now on the say essentially along the railroad tracks.
Yeah, that transfer area, we don't do that kind of. So we don't bring in debris. So we don't use that as a transfer area anymore.
Well, that's you. But what about for your future tenant? Are you going to be putting people up there?
Well, they might park equipment there, or they might store materials there, depending who the tenant is. But there's a pretty good slope in that over by that railroad track, so we have to stay away about 15 feet anyway, because of the way the grade changes.
Okay, there was just a discussion about bringing in semi-trailers. Can you describe how the trucks would come into their property?
We normally don't have that many, but we have a few. We actually our company builds parks, playgrounds, and athletic fields. And we've done some jobs with Broomfield also. So when we redid the parking lot in the front, we put in a drive lane in the front. So all semi-traffic would come in through the front. That's the way we intended it.
Okay, what about your prospective tenants though?
They would follow through there too. They'd use the same access point because that access over on Emerald is kind of tight. And depending on how many cars are parked by that gate, I think it could be problematic to try to get a semi out through there. So right. Since we've owned it, I think we've opened it once or twice to do some maintenance up in that area, but we really haven't opened that gate in the last 2 years.
Yeah, so that your main area. Okay.
There was a couple dead elm up there that we tore out, I think, a couple weeks ago, but we usually don't go down Elm because that's more of a residential street.
Okay, so I'm not quite certain on my axe, on the blade of the axe. What are you proposing there? You're a 10-foot setback?
Yeah, we could do a 10-foot setback up there, and there are some existing trees that are up there, right adjacent to that fence.
And then along the dedicated or the Broomfield property, if you have that little triangle, what do you how long?
We can do a 10-foot setback there too. Like I said, there's some power poles on the inside of the fence and then some trees in there that we would let stay. So a 10-foot setback over there also.
So that's only, you'd have 10 foot instead of 25 then.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Hart?
Yeah, yes, thank you. Wanted to ask, what's the purpose of having that no access zone changed adjacent to the lot to the south of you. I don't understand why you would want to do that. It's relatively small. It's only 2,200 square feet. The remaining 17,000 square feet seems to me like would give you ample space to expand your operation. Could you address that for me?
I think we just put, both of them were on the drawing, so we're just putting them both out for discussion. I mean, we're not opposed to having a setback along that property for the homeowner there, but because both of them were on the drawing, we addressed both of them at the same time.
Okay, so you're willing to consider some trade-off there.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all I have.
Barkman,
Okay, there we go. I am not really sure about this one. I'm hoping you guys can help me because what I hear your point that this does eat up a lot of land space. But I also have concern for that homeowner to the south because I coincidentally a couple weeks ago I moved next to a landscaping yard, and I have a concern, like if you put a mulch pile there and that thing lights on fire, it's not going to be long before it's into their house or it's into their property. All of that kind of debris, it does blow around. So especially in that particular area, I'm less feeling inclined for that particular area to reduce the setback at all. The axe handle piece, that I can see some flexibility up, especially up at the top where the axe blade is, and it's a little bit of a oddly shaped but thicker chunk of land. So I'm hoping maybe you can tell me more about, is it really just vehicles and equipment, like, or what are we really talking about? What type of landscaping materials? Are we talking about rocks? Are we talking about mulch? Are we talking about, oh, we're just going to put in plants for a couple months, or it's a shuffle spot between a job site and a grower for plants, or what are we really looking at there?
Well, the one prospective tenant would be an actual landscape materials yard. So they would have rock, timbers, flagstone, and some mulch also. So those kinds of concerns, we could make sure the mulch piles were over by the railroad tracks as opposed to adjacent to any homeowners or structures. But we don't know if they're going to be the tenant or not. We had a directional boring company that was interested. He just wants to be able to pull in there and park a truck when he's not using it. And so again, he wants to be able to park the truck and not be limited by losing 100 feet over there. Mm-hmm. So, and we've had a couple of light manufacturing people that might have some equipment they want to just store up there. So we don't know for sure. We know that the zoning, the way it is now, allows a landscape company, and the landscape material supply company that's interested has been looking to move into Broomfield for some time. And it can be difficult at times to find a property that has the right zoning. So whether or not they're the tenant, I don't know, because I'm going to be in that front building working with them. So I want to make sure I don't have any complaints, and I want to make sure everybody's happy.
Okay. I think it would be wise to develop a relationship with that property that's really adjacent to yours, especially if she just moved back in and she's been the owner for a long time. And personally, when it comes to that buffer area there, I know she said she wants to keep it, but I would be favorable tonight for a continuation. I know we can't give you too long because we only have one more meeting left, is the Planning and Zoning Commission, to give you guys some time to see what might be amenable to both parties in there, to kind of look at that a little bit more, what type of setback could be done, what could more be done in that area. But in absence of that, my thought tonight would be to leave that area completely out. So those are all my comments.
Silvers.
Yes, I'm looking at page 2, and you've got a square box that says 25-foot clear zone, no parking. And then in the smaller circle, it says 20-foot clear zone, no parking. So is it 25 feet down by the dark green, or is it 20 feet? I don't,
The door.
Me, I'm sorry.
20 feet.
Sorry. It's 20. It's 20.
okay, so it should have been 20 in that box.
Correct.
Okay, so in my mind, I'm not in favor of continuing this. I don't think it's that complicated. I would propose, I mean, my recommendation would be leave the 20-foot setback there, clear zone behind the neighbor's house in the dark green, and do the 10-foot setback on the west side and call it good. It's, you know, we're compromising on the west side and the hatchet side, but still trying to protect the homeowner down in the dark green. So, you know, is 10 feet really going to make that much difference? If you were willing to go 10 feet, why wouldn't you just leave it 20 and move on? It's got an 8-foot fence, so that provides some protection. So that would be my recommendation, but that's just me. I'm only one member of the board. So I would keep the dark green, the 20 feet, and do 10 feet up along the leg or the handle and the hatchet and call it good. So that's all my comments.
Lamont,
I concur with Chairman Silvers. I have no other comments.
Okay, I was looking at the map. I guess I need to kind of get back in the game here. Okay, is there anyone else that has any additional questions or requires any additional information before I close the public hearing? Commissioner Hastings.
Yeah, I was just looking at the dark green area down next to where the homeowner is. In it currently it's no parking, but to let them, you know, have that take 20 feet away and where it currently is, it really takes a lot away from them. Would it not be just maintain it at a no parking zone, and then still give the 10 foot? As a buffer, and therefore they can use it for storage or everything, but they can't park in that area. I think that's a big concern that I would have for that resident, as far as people with their vehicles to be coming up there and firing up, you know, early in the morning at 7 o'clock or whatever. I hate to take all 20 feet away. Just my opinion.
Okay, well, before we close the public hearing, let's chat about that a little bit, because if I have my truck's a diesel truck, and if I have it setting 10 foot from my garage door, and if I would move it 20 foot from my garage door, I don't know that I hear or see a lot of difference in my mind. If I had a bulldozer or a backhoe or some tractor fired up, is it really going to make any difference if it's 10 feet or 20 feet? You know, I don't know. I don't know the size of the equipment. I don't know how much exhaust it's giving off. I don't know how much, you know, sometimes you get these diesel vehicles and they fire them up and this big puff of black smoke comes out and goes whichever way the wind's taking it. So I would not want to be that homeowner sitting there and smelling diesel fuel all day long, or whenever they start up their trucks or tractors or equipment as they move on, because that stuff's pretty a potent smell if you're living there, and if you want to enjoy your backyard or do whatever, it's kind of tough. I don't know that if you look at the 20-foot clear zone, if they're just not allowed to park in there, but they can circulate to keep somebody making a radius or a turn, I think it still accomplishes what they're trying to say, because they're telling us that they can't get in and turn around and get trucks in and out. Well, they can, and they could use that 20-foot buffer zone, but they just can't park in there. So I don't know if that's a detriment or not. You know, I mean, that's my kind of thought. The west side, I think we kind of got that bashed out, but anyway, just trying to protect the homeowner to the extent that a commercial operation is going to be right behind them, and you know, 10 feet is not really that far. So I think we should maintain the 20-foot buffer, but that's just me. So Commissioner Carius has a question as well, so we'll let him speak and see what we want to do. But I just want to try to protect the homeowner as much as we can. So and that's all I have. Commissioner Carius?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I was just going to add is the reason why I recommended trees was not to provide, you know, a visible buffer between the house and the property. Trees act as functional air scrubbers. They literally collect the exhaust fumes and the dust and other things that, maybe put up from an active site. And so that was more of what I was thinking. Even a small tree that shoots up pretty high is going to act as a kind of cleaner buffer between the house and the property. And so I even a 10-foot tree with an 8-foot fence next to it, it still serves a pretty significant purpose for catching that dust as it's kicked up from the ground around the property and preventing it from just, being spread across the house and other areas. So that's kind of what I was thinking with the trees and different green spaces, was really just creating that kind of like dust catching barrier between that. And I believe if I read that right, it's a 6-foot fence along the west side and an 8-foot fence along the south mark to the house, so 7997. That's all 8-foot fencing, and then 6 foot along the roadside going north, right?
It looks like it's all 8 feet along the west side. I got out my magnifying glass and it says 8-foot high wood fence screening along the tomahawk blade. And then down the handle, it says 8-foot high wood screening fence. And then across the back of the homeowner, that's the dark green, it says an 8-foot high wood screening fence. So all that is all 8 foot high.
Okay.
That I could see. And you have good points. Some of the things, if someone were to buy a tree, they'd probably get a 1-inch caliper tree that has probably got 3 leaves on it, and they would plant them. So it'd be like 10 years before they even got to the point of becoming 8 feet to get any kind of capture with as a mature tree. So that's sometimes something we have to think about too. Is you're going to say, okay, we want a 6-inch caliper and a 40-foot high tree. Well, they can't carry those around. So we all good comments. I just don't know if it's practical or not.
Well, I'm more thinking long term. Like, I'm here being the youngest person on the board, thinking 40 years from now, those trees will be pretty nice. Just saying. I don't care if it's 8 years or 10 years till the trees are ready. It's still valuable to the property to have that nice row of trees that really sets off this property space from the other one. And yeah, it's not an immediate payoff. Trees are not an immediate payoff, but it's something that we invest in making, and set that standard. And I think it'll be really, useful. That's more what I'm thinking is like, it's a long-term investment for sure. I agree. And I think it depends on the tree as well, because I also am thinking back to the trees that my dad planted. They took a little while to grow, got up nice and tall. And then of course, he didn't do so hot with them, and 3 of them fell over within, 5-10 years or something. So it depends on, what you're putting in and what you want to do, but they're a landscaping business. I imagine that they're much more knowledgeable on this than I am.
Right. No, all good comments. I'm just trying to get to a satisfactory motion as we move forward, so we're all on kind of the same page. So does the applicant have anything else to say as you've heard our comments? Would you guys like to say anything, Scott or Teresa?
I like the recommendation of trees, but like you said, it's going to take a while to get to that point. There are some ornamental grasses that will grow that tall that will provide some shade and some somewhat of a noise buffer, filtering of the air that can be maintained, cut down in the winter time and grow up again. And then that way you don't have to wait 10 years for a tree to get to the point to provide the privacy. We'd be willing to put some of the tallest of the landscaping grasses over there to give them some privacy, and to, just like when we landscaped around the parking lot, we took into consideration what would work over there and that would be comfortable for the McDonald's next door. So, we're not opposed to providing some landscape materials or some shrubs that would give the homeowner of that house some additional privacy.
No, I think that's a good suggestion. As long as you get some kind of vegetation in there, I think that's a good win for everyone. And trees are good if they're not trees, some sort of vegetation, even evergreens and so on and so forth that stay green all year round, you know, sometimes those are pretty nice when you plant them, and they can grow pretty tall. And certainly, well, they would catch a lot of particulates that's floating around in the air. So anyway, that's good comments by all. So we need to draft a resolution, or somebody needs to draft a resolution that's a voting member that can summarize what we're trying to say. And I would be happy to do that. If Chuck, you don't want to do it or whatever, I'd be happy to make a motion as well. But first of all, let me go back and let's just kind of get back where we're at, because I haven't closed the public hearing yet. So is there anything else before, is there anyone else has any additional information or questions before I close the public hearing? Because once I close it, we can't jump back in here. So if there's no more questions, I will declare the public hearing officially closed. Are there any additional comments from staff?
No, there are not. Thank you.
We will now proceed to the resolution. Resolution number PZ 2021-7, a resolution approving with or without conditions, or a resolution denying unplatted 7905 West 120th Avenue urban renewal site plan and use by special review amendment number 1. What is the pleasure of the commission? I would like to make a motion, and I would like to say that the setback along what we're calling the blade side of the hatchet and the handle of the hatchet be reduced to 10 feet. I would say that the buffer from the residence at 7997 or whatever, I don't have the address, the one to the south, maintain the 20 feet, but add some sort of vegetation along that boundary as well as the western boundary. And the vegetation, we would leave up to you to be trees or shrubs or tall grasses or whatever. You guys are the landscaping experts, whatever you'd want to do. So that would be my motion, would be to add the 10-foot setback along the west side, have vegetation and trees or whatever you select to be some sort of a grab of particulates that's floating in the air along the west side, maintain the 20-foot setback along the south side, and put vegetation or trees or some sort of grasses and tall grasses to help collect particulates in that area as well. So that's my motion. And I guess if you had, I don't have the findings, but I guess if the findings, it looks like we have a lot of hands up in the air. Commissioner Franz.
I second the motion. Chairman Silvers presented with the conditions that he mentioned.
Okay, so we have a motion and a proper second. Any discussion on the motion?
No.
Okay. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Silvers,
Yes.
Barkman,
Yes.
Lamont,
Yes.
Mickelson,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Franz,
Yes.
Hastings.
Yes. So that passes 7-0. So good luck with your project, but do try to include some vegetation, trees or something to make us all proud, because that's a nice area and we need to maintain it in some manner that protects the residents around it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. Good luck with your project. Okay. Any special reports? Are there any special reports to be discussed this evening?
Thank you, Chairman. No special reports, but a reminder to the commissioners that the Neighborhood Board of Adjustment and Land Use Review Commission applications are available on the website. And I'll send out a reminder as well, but those are due by, I believe, the middle of the month. So I'll send out the links again, but just a reminder.
In the middle of the month, we'll get here much quicker than you realize, because today is what, the 7th?
Yeah, I know I'm going to quote the wrong day, but I think it's like the 14th or 15th. So,
14th.
but I'll include it in the email when I send the reminder.
Okay, cool. Yeah, today is what, the
8th.
8th. Yeah, it'll be here before you know it. Time goes by so fast. I've been retired 6 months and it doesn't seem like 6 days. So I'm telling you, it goes by fast. Okay, and Commissioner Bartman, always good to have you back. We appreciate you being here, and hopefully you'll be here for the next several meetings and see what happens going forward. And a very good discussion, you guys, on everything. I appreciate everybody's comments. They had really good, everyone had good comments, and I think we came to a satisfactory resolution. So Commissioner's Corner, that concludes the commission agenda for this evening. Is there any new business to come before the commission? If there's not any, Commissioner
Chairman, there's a
Carius.
hand up.
Commissioner Carius? Your
Yeah, I
hand was
just
up.
wanted to, so with the movement or the bifurcation of the board into two sections, are the current bylaws of the Planning and Zoning Commission being transferred to either one of the alternative boards?
Commissioner, I'm not sure that we have gotten to the drafting of the bylaws, but there will be new bylaws drafted for both the Neighborhood Board of Adjustment and for the Land Use Review Commission. My gut feeling says that the Land Use Review Commission's bylaws will be very similar to the Planning and Zoning Commission's bylaws and will probably be used as a template, but we will be needing to draft new ones.
Okay, and is that's City Council, and I'm assuming Christine drafting those?
Yeah, I think that'll just be internal, Jake. So if you have comments, go ahead and send them to me now or whenever you have them, so that I know, and that goes for anyone, so that I know what everyone thinks, if there should be some improvements or some changes. And I know, you have some expertise in that area, so I would appreciate that. But Anna, the council doesn't need to look at them, right? Yeah, it'll just be internal, just us making sure that we have those in place.
And typically when we've made changes to the bylaws, I know that the commission has been required to vote on the changes. So the commission will be able to review the bylaws. It's just council isn't involved.
Right.
When do you want comments and stuff submitted by? I can draft, there's some weird things like,
yeah,
technically Robert's Rules of Order, you don't have any setup for us to actually hold votes over like Zoom meetings and telephone calls and things. And there's like lots of weird things. I also just did a comparison of Westminster, Denver, Broomfield, and Arvada's bylaw systems to try and look for differences across them to see what our standard practices across the other nearby cities. So yeah, I'll try and make some recommendations there.
Yeah, I mean, when, Anna, should we have the new boards constituted by?
So the new boards will be appointed on the 6th and training will occur later that month. So we'll need the bylaws in place for that training. So probably within the next 3 to 4 weeks, we'll be drafting those. So the sooner the better that you can share any thoughts.
Cool, can do.
Thank you.
Good job. And also anyone else wanting to provide any comments are welcome to do it as well. It's a comment to the entire commission, not just Jake. Okay, so if there's no further business, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for being here and good night.